Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama Rama, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Krishna 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram
Come and
Hare
chant
Hare.
here. Hey, Anushka, don't, Adya, why are you sitting ideal?
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare
Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Anshu come this Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Mataji, am I audible, Mataji?
Yes, ma'am.
Mangalacharan start chestanu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Prabhuji, can you make me the host, Prabhuji, or are you going to take care? Giraj Prabhu. Hare Krishna. మాతాజీ నిన్న ఎక్కడి వరకు చేసాం మాతాజీ? నా దగ్గర వెన్స్డే అప్డేట్ ఉంది 13 అని.
జస్ట్ సెకండ్ మాతాజీ చూస్తాను.
హరే కృష్ణ గిరిరాజ్ ప్రభు.
Sorry, Mataji.
ప్రభుజీ.
Dandavatam.
The host ప్రభుజీ.
Yeah. 9 from 19, I think. Can you open 18? 2518?
Yeah, I'll open. ఇది అయిపోయిందా ప్రభుజీ?
18 మాతాజీ.
18 అయిపోయిందా? We have to start 19, right?
ప్రభుజీ
Sir,
నిమిత్త మాత్రం అది చేశారు కదా.
Open. Sir, open చేయండి 18.
ఇది 19 ప్రభు. 18 ఏమో. ఇది 18.
2518 ఒకసారి ఓపెన్ చేయండి. I think 17 18
ఇదిగో ఓపెన్ చేశాను ప్రభుజీ.
No, I'm unable to see. 1 second. Yeah.
Are others able to see?
Yes మాతాజీ.
ఒకసారి స్క్రోల్ డౌన్ చేయండి మొత్తం. ఇది అయిపోయింది అనుకుంటా కదా. స్క్రోల్ డౌన్ చేయండి.
అయిపోయిందా?
సరే నేను మళ్ళీ చదవండి. 18 చదవండి. 18 నుంచి చదవండి.
ఓకే ప్రభుజీ. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Lord is pure spiritual form, transcendental to all material qualities. Yet for the sake of the creation of the material world and its maintenance and annihilation, he accepts through his external energy the material modes of nature called goodness, passion, and ignorance. Purport. The Supreme Lord is the master of the external energy manifested by the three material modes, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. And as master of this energy, he is ever unaffected by the influence of such bewildering energy. The living entities, the jivas, however, are affected by or susceptible to being influenced by such modes of material nature. That is the difference between the Lord and the living entities. The living entities are subjected by those qualities, although originally the living entities are qualitatively one with the Lord. In other words, the material modes of nature, being products of the energy of the Lord, are certainly connected with the Lord, but the connection is just like that between the master and the servants. The Supreme Lord is the controller of the material energy, whereas the living entities who are entangled in the material world are neither masters nor controllers. Rather, they become subordinate to or controlled by such energy. Factually, the Lord is eternally manifested by his internal potency or spiritual energy, just like the sun and its rays in the clear sky. But at times he creates the material energy as the sun creates a cloud in the clear sky. As the sun is ever increasingly unaffected by a spot of cloud, so also the unlimited Lord is unaffected by the spot of material energy manifested at times in the unlimited span of the Lord's rays of Brahmajyoti. Hare Krishna. Samyukta Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. These three modes of material nature being further manifested as matter, knowledge and activities put the eternally transcendental living entity under conditions of cause and effect and make him responsible for such activities. Purport. Because they are between the internal and external potencies, the eternally transcendental living entities are called the marginal potency of the Lord. Factually, the living entities are not meant to be so conditioned by material energy, but due to their being affected by the false sense of lording it over the material energy, they come under the influence of such potency and thus become conditioned by the three modes of material nature. This external energy of the Lord covers up the pure knowledge of the living entities eternally existing with him. But the covering is so constant that it appears that the conditioned soul is eternally ignorant. Such is the wonderful action of Maya, or external energy manifested as if materially produced. By the covering power of the material energy, the material scientist cannot look beyond the material causes, but factually behind the material manifestations, there are Adibhuta, Adhyatma, and Adidaiva actions, which the conditioned soul in the mode of ignorance cannot see. The Adibhuta manifestation entails repetitions of births and deaths with old age and diseases. The Adhyatma manifestation conditions the spirit soul, and the Adidaiva manifestation is the controlling system. These are the material manifestations of cause and effect and the sense of responsibility of the conditioned actors. They are, after all, manifestations of the conditioned state, and the human being's freedom from such a conditioned state is the highest perfectional attainment. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Lavanya Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. Text 20. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. O Brahmana Narada, the superseer, the transcendental Lord, is beyond the perception of the material senses of the living entities because of the above mentioned three modes of nature. But he is the controller of everything, including me. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 7.24 and 7.25, the Lord has declared very clearly that the impersonalist who gives more importance to the transcendental rays of the Lord as Brahma Jyoti and who concludes that the absolute truth is ultimately impersonal and only manifests a form at a time of necessity is less intelligent than the personalist. However much the impersonalist may be engaged in studying the Vedanta, the fact is that such impersonalists are covered by the above mentioned three modes of material nature. Therefore, they are unable to approach the transcendental personality of Godhead. The Lord is not approachable by everyone because he is curtained by his Yogamaya potency. But one should not wrongly conclude that the Lord was formerly unmanifested and now has been manifested himself in the human form. This misconception of formlessness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is due to the Yogamaya curtain of the Lord and can be removed only by the Supreme Will, as soon as the conditioned soul surrenders unto him. The devotees of the Lord who are transcendental to the above mentioned three modes of material nature can see all blissful transcendental form of the Lord within their vision of love in the attitude of pure devotional service. Thank you, Master.
Thank you, Mataji. Vani Mataji, are you in a position to read? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, can you please read?
Yeah. Translation Chadvala Mataji.
Translation and purport, Mataji.
Okay. The Lord who is the controller of all energies and thus creates by his own potency external time the fate of all living entities and their particular nature for which they were created, and he again merges them independently. Purport. The creation of the material world wherein the conditioned souls are allowed to act subordinately by the Supreme Lord takes place again and again after being repeatedly annihilated. The material creation is something like a cloud in the unlimited sky. The real sky is the spiritual sky, eternally filled with the rays of the Brahma Jyoti. And a portion of this unlimited sky is covered by the Mahat Tattva, cloud of the material creation, in which the conditioned souls who want to lord it against the will of the Lord are put into play as they desire, under the control of the Lord by the agency of his external agency. As the rainy season appears and disappears regularly, the creation takes place and is again annihilated under the control of the Lord, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 8.19. So the creation and annihilation of the material worlds is a regular action of the Lord just to allow the conditioned souls to play as they like and thereby create their own fate of being differently created again in terms of their independent desires at the time of annihilation. The creation therefore takes place at a historical date, as we are accustomed to think of everything which has a beginning in our tiny experience. The process of creation and annihilation is called anadi, or without reference to date regarding the time of the creation first took place, because the duration of even a partial creation is it is 640 crore years. The law of creation is, however, as mentioned in the Vedic literatures, that is created at certain intervals and is again annihilated by the will of the Lord. The whole material or even the spiritual creation is a manifestation of the energy of the Lord. Just as the light and heat of the fire are different manifestation of the fire's energy. The Lord therefore exists in his impersonal form by such expansion of energy, and the complete creation rests on his impersonal feature. Nonetheless, he keeps himself distinct from such creation as the Paramatma or complete, so that no one should wrongly think that his personal feature is not existent due to his impersonal unlimited expansions. The impersonal expansion is a manifestation of his energy, and he is always in his personal feature despite his innumerable unlimited expansions of impersonal energies. Bhagavad Gita 9.5 to 7. For human intelligence, it is very difficult to conceive how the whole creation rests on his expansion of energy. But the Lord has given a very good example in the Bhagavad Gita. It is said that although the air and the atoms rest within the huge expansion of the sky, which is like resting reservoir of everything materially created, still the sky remains separate and unaffected. Similarly, although the Supreme Lord maintains everything created by his expansion of energy, he always remains separate. This is accepted even by Shankaracharya, the great advocate of an impersonal form of the Absolute. He says, Narayana Paro Vyakta, or Narayana exists separately apart from the impersonal creative energy. The whole creation thus merges within the body of the transcendental Narayana at the time of annihilation, and the creation emanates from his body again with the same unchanging categories of fate and individual nature. The individual living entities, being parts and parcel of the Lord, are sometimes described as Atma, qualitatively one in spiritual constitution, but because such living entities are apt to be attracted to the material creation, actively and subjectively, they are therefore different from the Lord.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Raju Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Can you read?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Translation. After the incarnation of the first Purusha, Karanaranya Vyasi Vishnu.
Karanar Nava Sai Vishnu.
Karanadak Sai Vishnu. The Mahatattva. Yeah. The Mahatattva are the principles of material creation take place, and then time is manifested. And in the course of time, the three qualities appear. Nature means the three qualities appearances. They transform into activity performed by the omnipotency of the Supreme Lord. The whole material creation evolves by the process of transformation and reactions, and after another, and by the same omnipotency, they are wound up again, one after another, and conserved in the body of the Supreme Lord. Supreme Kala, at times the synonym of nature and the transformed manifestation of the principles of material creation. As such, Kala may be taken as the first cause of all creation, and by the transformation of nature, different activities of the material world becomes visible. These activities may be taken up as the natural instinct of each and every living being, or even one of the inert objects. And after the manifestation of activities, there are varieties of products and byproducts of the same nature. Originally, these are all due to the Supreme Lord. The Vedanta Sutras and Bhagavatam thus begin with the absolute truth as the beginning of all creations. Janma Dasyata. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Lalit Mohan Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. Am I audible enough?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Translation. Material activities are caused by Mahatattvas being agitated. At first, there is transformation of the modes of goodness and passion, and later, due to mode of ignorance, matter, its knowledge, and different activities of material knowledge come into play. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Material creations of every description are more or less due to the development of modes of passion, rajas. The Mahatattva is the principle of material creation. And when it is agitated by the will of the Supreme, at first the modes of passion and ignorance are prominent. And afterwards, the mode of ignorance, and afterwards the mode of passion being generated in due course by material activities of different varieties becomes prominent. And the living entities are thus involved more and more in ignorance. Brahma is a representation of modes of passion, and Vishnu is a representation of mode of goodness, while the mode of ignorance is represented by Lord Shiva, the father of material activities. Material nature is called the mother, and the initiator for materialistic life is the father, Lord Shiva. All material creation by living entities is therefore initiated by the mode of passion. With the advancement of duration of life in a particular millennium, the different modes act by gradual development. In the as such age of Kali, when the mode of passion is most prominent, material activities of different varieties in the name of advancement of human civilization takes place, and the living entities become more and more involved in forgetting their real identity, the spiritual nature. By a slight cultivation of mode of goodness, a glimpse of spiritual nature is perceived. But due to the prominence of the mode of passion, the mode of goodness becomes adulterated. Therefore, one cannot transcend the limits of material modes, and therefore, realization of the Lord, who is always transcendental to the modes of material nature, becomes very difficult for the living entity. Even though prominently situated in the mode of goodness through cultivation of the various methods. In other words, the gross matters are Adibhutam. Their maintenance is Adidaivam, and the initiator of material activities is called Adhyatmam. In the material world, these three principles act as a prominent features, namely as a raw material, its regular supplies, and its use in different varieties of material creations for sense enjoyment by the bewildered entities. Mataji, it is still there? No, na?
No, Prabhuji, it's done.
Yeah, Mataji, can you do one thing, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
The Subodhini which has been shared to us, no? Can you please open the third page in that, Mataji?
Yeah, 1 second. Yes, Prabhuji.
One above this or below this, Mataji? Yeah, this one. So now we are reading this. This is fully technical, but it will completely be aerodynamic if you don't give a lot of, to say. See, now what we have read is Karnadakshay Vishnu. From him, everything starts. Okay. Then
Yes,
the before shloka, it is said that Kala has been put into it. First of all, what happens is his glance impregnates. Okay. Then Kala comes. And Jiva, along with their karma and svabhava comes. Then now, which I have read is the material nature, pradhana. Okay. And Mahatattva. Have you seen this?
Yes, Prabhuji.
The cycle. So now I have read Mahatattva. Okay. From Mahatattva, what is he telling? What is Brahma telling? In Mahatattva, there are two modes only. What is that?
In
Sutra
Sattva
Tattva.
and in Sutra Tattva. Mahatattva and
Okay.
Sutra Tattva.
Okay, these are the things, means only passion and goodness will be there. Then the ahankara starts. When the ahankara comes, then the three modes will manifest. So this is a bit technical in nature. Just by heart this. You will come to know later. You will come to know later all these things. See, because the same concept will be again told by different people like Kapila and all these people, all the devotees in the future to come. So just remember that Karnodakshaya Vishnu, just the moment he impregnates the whole material nature. So after impregnating, what will come? Kala and Jivas will come. Okay? And then the modes will come. And all of these things will be in a unmixed stage. Means modes are there, but they're not active. When will that become active? When the Mahatattva and Ahankara starts. Okay? All the modes will become activated. Understood till this point? Okay?
Yes, Prabhu.
First, Karnodakshaya will just have a glance on this material universe. Then what happens? Kala and Jivas will come. Okay? And then they will manifest into three modes, inactive. They will not be active. Three modes will come. And from the three modes, Mahatattva will come. And from there, the three modes will get manifested. Okay? Just remember till this. Mataji, you can just go to the shlokas now. Means the reading.
Yes, Prabhu. Surendra Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Translation. The self-centered materialistic ego, thus being transformed into three features, becomes known as the modes of the goodness, passion, and ignorance in three divisions, namely the powers that evolve matter, knowledge of material creations, and the intelligence that guides such materialistic activities. Narada, you are quite competent to understand this. But materialistic ego, or this sense of identification with matter, is grossly self-centered, devoid of clear knowledge of the existence of God. And this self-centered egoism of the materialistic living entities is the cause of their being conditioned by the other paraphernalia and continuing their bondage of material existence. In the Bhagavad Gita, this self-centered egoism is very nicely explained in the 7th chapter, verses 24 through 27. The self-centered impersonalist, without a clear conception of the personality of Godhead, concludes in his way that the personality of the Godhead takes a material shape from his original impersonal spiritual existence for a particular mission. And this misleading conception of the Supreme Lord by the self-centered impersonalist continues, even though he is seen to be very interested in the Vedic literatures such as the Brahma Sutras and other highly intellectual sources of knowledge. This ignorance of the personal feature of the Lord is due simply to ignorance of the mixture of different modes. The impersonalist thus cannot conceive of the Lord's external spiritual form of external knowledge, bliss, and existence. The reason is that the Lord reserves the right of not exposing himself to the non-devotee, who, even after a thorough study of literature like the Bhagavad Gita, remains an impersonalist simply by obstinacy. This obstinacy is due to the action of Yogamaya, a personal energy of the Lord that acts like a ADD camp by covering the vision of the obstinate impersonalist. Such a bewildered human being is described as mudha, or grossly ignorant, because he is unable to understand the transcendental form of the Lord is being unborn and unchangeable. If the Lord takes a form or a material shape from his original impersonal feature, then it means that he is born and unchangeable from impersonal to personal, but he is not changeable, nor does he ever take a new birth like the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul may take a form birth after birth due to his conditional existence in matter, but the self-centered impersonalist, by their gross ignorance, accept the Lord as one of them because by self-centered egoism. Even after so-called advancement of knowledge in the Vedanta, the Lord being situated in the heart of every individual being, living entity, knows very well the tendency of such conditioned soul in terms of past, present, and future. But the bewildered conditioned soul hardly can know him in his external form. By the will of the Lord, therefore, the impersonalist, even after knowing the Brahman and Paramatma features of the Lord, remains ignorant of his eternal personal features as ever-existent Narayana, transcendental to all the material creation. Hare Krishna.
Akinchan Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Akinchan Prabhu,
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji. Yes.
can you read,
Hare
Prabhuji?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, please read.
From this verse, Mataji, Yat Karoshi.
No, Prabhuji, यहाँ से.
Oh, okay. Okay. The cause of such gross ignorance is is constant engagement by the materialistic man in the matter of artificially increasing material demands. To realize Supreme Personality of Godhead, one has to purify the materialistic senses by devotional service. The mode of goodness or the Brahminical culture recommended in the Vedic literatures is helpful into such spiritual realizations, and thus the Jnana Shakti stage of the conditioned soul is comparatively better than the two stages, namely Drava Shakti and Kriya Shakti. The whole material civilization is manifested by the huge accumulation of materials, or in other words, raw materials for the industrial purpose and the industrial enterprises, Kriya Shakti, and all due to the gross ignorance of spiritual life. In order to rectify this great anomaly of material civilization based on the principles of Dravya Shakti and Kriya Shakti, one has to adopt the process of devotional service of the Lord by adoption of principles of Karma Yoga mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 9.27 as follows. Yat karoshi yat snashi yat jyosi dadashi yat tapasya kaunteya tat kurva madharpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, and all that offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering to me. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Gaurav Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. 1 second. Huh? Yeah, you can read.
Translation: From the darkness of false ego, the first of the 5 elements, namely the sky, is generated. Its subtle form is the quality of sound, exactly as the seed is in relationship with the scene. Purport: the 5 elements, namely sky, air, fire, water, and earth, are all but different qualities of the darkness of false ego. This means that the false ego, in the sum total from the form of Mahat Tattva, is generated from marginal potency of the Lord, and due to this false ego of lording it over the material creations, ingredients are generated for the false enjoyment of the living being. The living being is practically the dominating factor over the material elements as the enjoyer, though the background is the Supreme Lord. Factually save and accept the Lord, no one can be called the enjoyer, but the living entity falsely desires to become the enjoyer. This is the origin of false ego. When the bewildered living being desires this, the shadow elements are generated by the will of the Lord, and the living entities are allowed to run after them as after a phantasmagoria. It is said that first the Tant Mantra sound is created.
Tanmatra, Prabhuji. Tanmatra.
Tanmatra. Okay. It is said that first the Tanmatra sound is created and then the sky, and in the verse it is confirmed that actually it is so, but the sound is subtle form of the sky, and the distinctions is like the between the seed and the scene. The sound is the representations of the actual object, as the sound produced speaking of the objects gives an idea of the description of the object. Therefore, sound is subtle characteristics of object Similarly, sound representation of the Lord in terms of his characteristics is a complete form of the Lord, as was seen by Vasudeva and Maharaja Dashrath, the fathers of Lord Krishna and Lord Rama. The sound representations of the Lord is not non-different from the Lord himself, because the Lord and his representation in sound are absolute knowledge. Lord Chaitanya has instructed us that in the holy name of the Lord, as sound representation of the Lord, all the potencies of the Lord are invested. Thus, one can immediately enjoy the association of the Lord by pure vibration of the sound representation of his holy name, and the concept of the Lord is immediately manifested before the pure devotee. A pure devotee, therefore, is not aloof from the Lord even for a moment. The holy name of the Lord, as recommended in the Shastras, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, may therefore be constantly chanted by the devotee aspiring to be constantly in touch with the Supreme Lord. One who is thus able to associate with the Lord is sure to be delivered from the darkness of the created world, which is a product of false ego. Tamasi Mai Jyotirikama. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Tamasoma Jyotirka. Thank you, Prabhuji. Chandramauli Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Chandramauli Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Chatagalra Prabhuji.
Yeah. And translation by Srila Prabhupada. Because the sky is transformed, the air is generated with the quality of touch, and by previous section, the air is also full of sound and the basic principles of duration of life, sense perception, mental power, and bodily strength. When the air is transformed in course of time and natural course, fire is generated, taking shape with the sense of touch and sound. Since fire is also transformed, there is a manifestation of water full of juice and taste. As previously, it also has form and touch, and is also full of sound. And water being transformed, full of variegatedness on earth, appears orders, and as previously becomes qualitatively full of juice, touch, sound, and form respectively. Perfect. The whole process of creation is an act of gradual evolution and development from one element to another, reaching up to the variegatedness of the earth as so many trees, plants, mountains, rivers, reptiles, birds, animals, and varieties of human beings. The quality of sense perception is also evolutionary, namely generated from sound, then touch, and from touch to form. Taste and order are also generated along with the gradual development of sky, air, fire, water, and earth. They are all mutually the cause and effect of one another, but the original cause is the Lord himself in a planetary portion, as Mahavishnu lying in the casual water of Mahatattva. As such, Lord Krishna is described in the Brahma Samhita as the cause of all the causes, and this is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 10.8 as follows: Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravattate iti matva vajante ma buddha bhava samanvitaha. The qualities, shall I continue, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji, you can.
The qualities of sense perception are fully represented in the earth, and they are manifested in other elements to a lesser extent. In the sky, there is a sound only, whereas in the air there are sound and touch. In the fire there are sound, touch, and shape, and in the water there is a taste also, along with the other perceptions, namely sound, touch, and shape. In the earth, however, there are all above mentioned qualities with an extra development of order also. Therefore, on the earth there is a full display of variegatedness of life, which is originally started with the basic principle of air. Diseases of the body takes place due to derangement of air, within the earthly body of the living beings. Mental diseases result from special derangement of the air within the body, and as such, yogic exercise is especially beneficial to keep the air in order so that diseases of the body become almost nil by such exercises. When they are properly done, the duration of life also increases, and one can have control over death also by such practices. A perfect yogi can have command over death and quit the body at the right moment when he is competent to transfer himself to a suitable planet. The Bhakti Yogi, however, surpasses all the yogis because by dint of his devotional service, he is promoted to the region beyond the material sky, and his place. I think something is missing here, and his place. And is placed in one of the planets in the spiritual sky by the supreme will of the Lord, the controller of everything. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Giriraj Prabhu, Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
Master. Yes. Text 30, translation purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. From the mode of goodness, the mind is generated and becomes manifest, as also the 10 demigods controlling the bodily movements. Such demigods are known as the controller of directions. The controller of air, the sun god, the father of Daksha Prajapati, the Ashwini Kumaras, the fire god, the king of heaven, the worshipable deity in heaven, the chief of the Adityas, and Brahmaji, the Prajapati. All come into existence. Purport. Vaikarika is a neutral stage of creation, and Tejas is the initiative of creation, while Tamas is full display of material creation under the spell of the darkness of ignorance, manufacture of the necessities of life, in factories and workshops, excessively prominent in the age of Kali, or in the age of the machine, is the summit stage of the quality of darkness. Such manufacturing enterprises by human society are in the mode of darkness because factually there is no necessity for the commodities manufactured. Human society primarily requires food for subsistence, shelter for sleeping, defense for protection, and commodities for satisfaction of the senses. The senses are the practical signs of life, as will be explained in the next verse. Human civilization is meant for purifying the senses, and objects of sense satisfaction should be supplied as much as are absolutely required, but not for aggravating artificial sensory needs. Food, shelter, defense, and sense gratification are all needs in material existence. Kudu, gudu, gudda, that's it. Yes. Kudu, gudu, gudda, and this one. Sense gratification. Otherwise, in his pure uncontaminated state of original life, the living entity has no such needs. The needs are therefore artificial. And in the pure state of life, there are no such needs. As such, increasing the artificial needs, as is the standard of material civilization, or advancing the economic development of human society, is a sort of engagement in darkness without knowledge. By such engagement, human energy is spoiled. Because human energy is primarily meant for purifying the senses, in order to engage them in satisfying the senses of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord, being the supreme possessor of spiritual senses, is the master of the senses. Rishikesha. Rishika means the senses, and Isha means the master. The Lord is not the servant of the sense. The Lord is not the servant of the senses, or in other words, is not directed by the dictation of the senses, but the conditioned souls or the individual living entities are servants of the senses. Godasa, Godasa, servants of the senses. Goswami, controller of the senses. That's another meaning. Then the words Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevana, Bhakti Uchaya. That is one remembrance. In other words, is not directed by the dictation of the senses, but the conditioned souls of the individual living entities are servants of the senses. They are conducted by the direction or dictation of the senses, and therefore material civilization is a kind of engagement in sense gratification only. The standard of human civilization should be to cure the disease of sense gratification, and one can do this simply by becoming an agent for satisfying the spiritual senses of the Lord. The senses are never to be stopped in their engagements, but one should purify them by engaging them in the pure service of sense gratification of the master of the senses. This is the instruction of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna wanted first of all to satisfy his own senses by his decision not to fight with his kinsmen and friends. But Lord Sri Krishna taught him the Bhagavad Gita just to purify Arjuna's decision for sense gratification. Therefore, Arjuna agreed to satisfy the senses of the Lord, and thus he fought the battle of Kurukshetra as the Lord desired. Whether the purport of the air can
Mere last Prabhuji, sir.
Yeah, it's a complete answer the question.
Yeah.
The Vedas instruct us to get out of the existence of darkness and go forward on the path of light. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. Tamasima Jyotirgamaya. The path of light is therefore to satisfy the senses of the Lord. Same that one. Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktiruchyate. Misguided men or less intelligent men follow the path of self-liberation without any attempt to satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord by following the path shown by Arjuna and other devotees of the Lord. On the contrary, they artificially try to stop the activities of the senses, yoga system, or they deny the transcendental senses of the Lord, jnana system. The devotees, however, are above the yogis and the jnanis because pure devotees do not deny the senses of the Lord. They want to satisfy the senses of the Lord. Only because of the darkness of ignorance do the yogis and jnanis deny the senses of the Lord and thus artificially try to control the activities of the diseased senses. In the diseased condition of the senses, there is too much engagement of the senses in increasing material needs. When one comes to see the disadvantages of aggravating the sense activities, one is called a jnani. And when one tries to stop the activities of the senses by practice of yogic principles, he is called a yogi. But when one is fully aware of the transcendental senses of the Lord and tries to satisfy his senses, one is called a devotee of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord do not try to deny the senses of the Lord, nor do they artificially stop the actions of the senses, but they do voluntarily engage the purified senses in the service of the master of the senses, as was done by Arjuna, thereby easily attaining the perfection of satisfying the Lord, the ultimate goal of all perfection. One quick question. So, what is the meaning that to satisfy the senses of the Lord, transcendental senses of Supreme Lord? What does it mean? Fully, but when one is fully aware of transcendental senses of the Lord and tries to satisfy his senses, that means Supreme Lord senses. What does it mean? Anybody?
Ante like preparing the bhoga, singing the glories of the Lord, chanting, and performing various activities which Lord can see, perceive.
Okay, so pleasing the Lord, pleasing the senses
Yeah.
of the Lord, ante
Okay.
Lavanya, what does it mean? What Krishna is transcendental senses?
Prabhuji, Navvida Bhakti, to do the Navvida Bhakti, he will be pleased, his senses will be pleased, Prabhuji.
Yeah, that's what it is.
The
That's what I
process.
want. Yes, Prabhuji. Same, Supreme Lord also same. Of course, how we get this body in our head part, complete the face, we have everything, five senses, including the mind. So Krishna, we transcendental Krishna. Actually, originally this body, how he created? He also having same body, but it's a now in this chapter only we get to know that Virat Rupa also. So Krishna's form is just like us. Actually, we all come from him. Nah? So all the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, sense of touch. That is what Prabhupada's teachings. Shavanam Kirtanam, that is to please the Supreme Lord's senses. Always hear, always remember. That's a thing. Yes. Okay, Mataji. So you can continue with some of the prayers.
Apart from that, you understood what is happening today? If you are understood, you are from the spiritual world only. If you don't understood, then it is normal. You are all with us.
Yes, Prabhuji. Giriraj Prabhu, please suggest from what we should start.
మాతాజీ యాక్చువల్లీ నిన్న 21 వరకు చేసినాం కదా. 21 నిన్న ఫస్ట్ బ్రహ్మస్థుతి 21 వరకు చేసినాం కదా. 22 నుంచి ఎంతమంది ఉన్నారు ఇప్పుడు? మనం 12 మంది ఉన్నాం. సో ఒక్కొక్కరం ఒక్కొక్క శ్లోక చేయమండి. ట్రాన్స్లేషన్ లేదు, ఇట్స్ ఓకే. విల్ డూ టుమారో ట్రాన్స్లేషన్ మండే. 12 నుంచి 22 నుంచి రిసైటేషన్ చేయండి. గోవిందం మన బ్రహ్మ సంహితం లాగానే సేమ్ ట్యూన్ మీటర్.
ఇది నిన్న 22 చేశారు అనుకుంటా కదా ప్రభుజీ, పెద్దది
21 వరకు చేసినాం అనుకుంటా మాతాజీ.
అంటే ఈ పెద్దది గుర్తుందా? దానికి ఒక ట్యూన్ ఉండేది కాదు, అది మీరు చేశారు.
తస్మాదిదం జగదశేషమసత్స్వరూపం స్వప్నాభమస్తదిశదం పురు దుఃఖ దుఃఖం త్వయ్యేవ నిత్య సుఖబోధతనవ అనంతే మాయాత ఉద్యాదపి యత్ సద్ ఇవా వా భాతి. సార్ చేయండి సరే. 22 నుంచి
మీరు చేశారు కదా 22. విల్ కంటిన్యూ విత్ 20.
మళ్ళీ అన్నా
చేయండి.
తస్మాదిదం జగదశేషమసత్స్వరూపం స్వప్నాభమస్త దిశనాం పురు దుఃఖ దుఃఖం త్వయ్యేవ నిత్య సుఖబోధతనావనంతే మాయాత ఉద్యాదపి యత్ సదైవ వా భాతి. థ్యాంక్ యూ మాతాజీ.
Today we will give Prabhuji's the first chance.
Yeah. So reservation
Men's Day.
Yes.
Lalitman Prabhu, you can do this, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Just come.
It's end.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I should do it in the what is it, Brahma Samhita stream, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Ekasvamatma Purusha Purana Satya Swayam Jyotir Ananta Adya Nityoksharo Jasra Sukho Niranjanaha Purnadvayo Mukta Upadito Mritaha.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Surendra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Evam vidham tvam sakalatmanam api atmatya vichakshate Gurvar kalabthapanishad sachakshusava yete shuchakshusha yete tarantiva bhavantrabodhim. Thank you.
Bhavantratam buddhim. No problem. Thank you. Ratam buddhim. Raju Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Atmanam evatmataya vijanatam thanaiva dhatam nikilam prapanchitam gnanena bhuyo pichatat praliyate rajvam ahir bhogam bhavabhavavyata.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Chandramali Prabhu. Chandramouli Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. 26.
Yeah. Ajnana samyahu bhava bandha moksha doina mananya usta antajna bhava ajasra sitiyatmani
Chiti.
kevale
Ajasra Chiti.
ajasra chitiyatmani kevale pare vicharyamane taranav ivahanim. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Akinjan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Tvam atmanam paramatva param atmanam evacha atma punar bahir mrigaye aho jnana jnanat jnana. Sorry, Mata. What is this?
Ahogya Janatagyata.
Ahogya janatagyata.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Gaurav Prabhu, can you do? Hare Krishna. I think he left. Okay. Raj Prabhu over.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Ram Reddy Prabhu. Yes, please do. 28.
Brahma Samhita Mataji, tune.
Brahma Samhita tune.
Okay. Antarbhave ananta bhavantameva yata tyajanto mrugayanti santa asantamapyanti ahim antarena santam gunam tam kim yuyanti santaha.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Samyukta Mataji. 29 cheyandi.
29 Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Atapite deva padam bhujadvaya prasadaleshanugrahita eva hi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno nachanya ekopi chiram vichinvan. Thank you, Mataji.
Mataji. Sandhya Mataji, cheyagalra?
Yes, Mataji. I'll try.
30 cheyandi.
तदास्तु मे नाथ सबूरि भागो भवेत्रवान्यत्र तु वातिरञ्चाम् एनाहमेकोऽपि भवज्जनानां भूत्वा निषेवे तव पादपल्लवम्. Thank you, Mataji.
Lavanya Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. अहो तिदान्या व्रजघोरमनया स्तन्यामृतं पीतम् अतीव ते मुडा यासां विभो वस्तरात्मा मजात्मना यत्तृप्तयेद्यापि न चालम् अदारा.
Thank you, Mataji. Vani Mataji.
Hare Krishna
Mataji.
Mataji. Hare Krishna. Krishna Mataji.
32.
Okay. Aho bhagyam Nanda Gopa Brajavakasam Yam Mitram Paramanandam Purnam Brahma Sanatanam.
Thank you, Mataji.
This is Mataji with Brahma Samhita prayers.
Brahma Samhita kaadu Mataji. Brahma Stuti 10.14 of Lord Krishna. Prayers of Lord Brahma to Krishna.
Brahma Vimohan Leela తెలుసా మాతాజీ? బ్రహ్మ విమోహన్ లీల.
తెలుసు yes, I know.
మొత్తం మబ్బులు ఇడిపోయాక అప్పుడు యాక్చువల్లీ బ్రహ్మదేవుడు పాడతాడు అనమాట కృష్ణుడి గురించి ఇట్లా నువ్వెవరు అని.
ఓకే ఓకే.
మాతాజీ మీరు ఈవినింగ్ చదువుతున్నారు కదా?
కానీ దాంట్లో ఇది లేదు కదా.
ఇట్లానే ఉంది ఫస్ట్ మనం చదివేది. ఒక రికార్డింగ్ తో పాటు పెడతారు కదా ప్రభు.
యా 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 అవునవును.
అవే ఇవి ప్రేయర్స్.
ఓకే ఓకే.
ఈశాం
ట్యూన్ మాత్రం రాట్లేదు. సరే కంటిన్యూ మాట్లాడండి.
ఏషాం తు భాగ్యమహిమాచ్యుత తావదాస్తాం ఏకాదశైవ హి వయం బత భూరి భాగా ఏతదృశీక చషకైర్ అసకృత్ పిబామా సర్వాదయోంఘ్రి ఉదజ మధ్వమృతాసవం తే ఏషాం తు భాగ్యమహిమాచ్యుత తావదాస్తాం ఏకాదశైవ హి వయం బత భూరి భాగా ఏతదృశీక చషకైర్ అసకృత్ పిబామా సర్వాదయోంఘ్రి ఉదజ మధ్వమృతాసవం తే. హరే కృష్ణ. ప్రభుజీ అందరిది అయిపోయింది. గిరిరాజ్ ప్రభు, should we continue these prayers or should we go to Bhagavad Gita prayers, Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna Mataji, can I recite?
Who's this?
Sirisha.
Sirisha Mataji. Yes, Mataji, please. 34.
Yes, Mataji. Tatpuri bhagyam iha janma kimapi atvayam yad गोकुलेऽपि कथामोऽङ्घ्रिराजोऽभिषेकं यज्जीवितं तु निखिलं भगवान् मुकुन्दास् त्वं अद्यपि यत्पदराजा श्रुतिं मृग्यमेव.
Okay, let us continue because 40 lo అయిపోతుంది.
Lalitman Prabhuji, she has question Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, she can ask.
Let us complete the Brahmastuti Prabhuji and then if you can hold the question. There are just 5 more shlokas. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, Mataji.
Yeah. Lalitman Prabhu, ee peddad meere cheyandi Prabhuji.
ఇదేంటి బ్రహ్మస్థుతిలో చేయాలి మాతాజీ? బ్రహ్మ సమితిలో చేయాలి.
అంటే ఏ ట్యూన్ మీకు కరెక్ట్ అనిపిస్తే ఆ ట్యూన్ చేయండి.
ఇది బ్రహ్మ సమితిలో రావడం కష్టం మాతాజీ, అట్లా కుదిర్చాలి అంతే. ఓకే. येषां घोष निवासिनामुत भवान् किं देव వేదిక్ మీటర్ ఆయన అక్కడ ఆయన ఎవరు? ఇది యశోదందన్ ప్రభు చేసేది అంతా మీరు చదివేది యశోదందన్ ప్రభు ఫాలో అవుతున్నారా?
ప్రభుజీ పేరు తెలియదు ప్రభుజీ. గిరిరాజ్ ప్రభు ప్లేస్ రికార్డ్.
అది రికార్డ్ చేసింది కదా,
లైక్ a Vedic, it is a Vedic.
Vedic meter.
Yes.
Okay.
ఏషాం ఘోష నివాసినాం ఉత భవాన్ కిం దేవరాతేతి నష్ అట్లా ఉంటుంది అనుకుంటా.
ఎక్స్టెండ్ చేస్తున్నారు మొత్తం దాన్ని.
మన ఇష్టమే.
ఓకే. ఇప్పుడు నెక్స్ట్ ఇంకా ఎక్స్టెండ్ చేయాలి. నెక్స్ట్
చేతో విశ్వఫలాత్
ఫలం త్వదపరం కుత్రాపయన్ మహంతి ఇట్లానా? ముహ్యతి సద్వేషాదివ పూతనాపి సకులాత్వమేవ. హరే కృష్ణ. అచ్చా,
మళ్ళీ చేయండి పర్వాలేదు.
ఓకే. ఏషాం ఘోష నివాసినాము. This comes in this, no? Barahapidam. ఏషాం ఘోష నివాసినాముత భవాన్ కిం దేవరాతేతి చేతో విశ్వఫలాత్ ఫలం త్వదపరం కుత్రాప్యయన్ముహ్యతి సద్వేషాదివ పూతనాపి సకులా త్వాం ఏవ దేవా పితా యద్ధామార్త సుహృత్ ప్రియాత్మతనయా ప్రాణాశయాస్త్వకృతే. I'm sorry Mataji, I'm completely going detour, but
No,
that's how it's
perfect.
happened to me.
Yeah, perfect. Very nice. Ram Reddy Prabhuji.
మాతాజీ 18 మాతాజీ నాకు
36 మీ ఇష్టమే. మీ ఇష్టం ఏ ట్యూన్ అయితే.
మాతాజీ ఒక లైన్ ఏదైనా చెప్పండి మాతాజీ, నాకు ఏం గుర్తు రావడం.
ఇప్పుడు నేను
తావద్రాగాదయస్తేనాస్.
ఓకే. తావద్రాగాదయస్తేనాస్ తావత్కారగృహం గృహం తావన్మోహాంగ్రి నిగదో యావత్ కృష్ణ నతే జనః. థ్యాంక్ యూ ప్రభు. థ్యాంక్ యూ మాతాజీ. కృష్ణ.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Samyukta Mataji, 37.
Yes, Mataji. Prapancham nishprapanchopi vidham vayasi bhutale prapanna janatananda sandoham praditum prabho. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Sandhya Mataji, 38.
जानन्त एव जानन्तु किं भुक्त्यनामे. माताजी ट्यून.
जानन्त एव जानन्तु किं बहुक्त्या न मे प्रभो. अट्ला.
जानन्त एव जानन्तु किं भुक्त्यनामे प्रभो मनसो वपुतो वाचो बहुक्त्या. जानन्त एव जानन्तु किं बाहुक्त्यनामे प्रभो मनसो वपुसो वाचो वैभवं तव गोचरः.
Thank you, Mataji. Lavanya Mataji.
Which one, Mataji?
39.
39. Okay. अनुजानाहि मां कृष्ण सर्वं त्वां वेष्टि सर्वदृक् त्वम् एव जगतां नातो जगत् एतं तवार्पितम्. Oh, sorry.
Sri Krishna Vrishnikul Pushkar Joshadayin Kshama Nirjara Dvija Pashudadhi Vriddhikarim Uddharma Sarvara Hara Kshitirakshasadhruk Akalpamarkamarahan Bhagavan Namaste. Vani Mataji.
Mataji, yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji.
First look.
Okay. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Uddhava Moolamādharshākham Ashvatham Prahuravyayam Chandrasya Yasya Pranani Yastam Veda Savedavid. Antena okate Mataji.
Yeah. Okay. Chandramouli or rendu cheseyandi Mataji, rendu cheseyandi.
Okay. Adhaschodvam prashastastasya shakha guna pravriddha vishaya pravalla adhasya moolante anusantatani karma anubandhani manushya loke.
Thank you, Mataji. Chandramouli Prabhu, 3 and 4.
Hare Krishna. Narupama asyeha tato palabhyate nanto nachadir nacha samprapishta asvattam yenam suviruddha moolam asanga sastrena dhrudena chitva tatapadam tat parimargitavyam yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuya tamyeva chadvam purusham prapadye yata pravitti prasriddha purani. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Akinchan Prabhu, are you there?
Yes, Mataji.
You can do 5 and 6. Prabhu.
Yeah. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvander vimukta sukha dukkha samjaner gachanti amuda padam अव्ययं तत् न तद्भाष्यते सूर्यो न संको न पावका यद्घात्पना निर्वतन्ते तद्धर्म परमं मम.
तद्धाम परमं मम.
Sorry, तद्धाम परमं मम.
Who has not done as of now yet? Giraj
Hare
Prabhu,
Krishna.
7 and 8. Yeah, who's this? Surendra Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, please do 7 and 8, Prabhu.
ममे वांस जीवलोके जीवभूत सनातन मनःशास्त्राणि इंद्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति शरीरं यत् अवाप्नोति यच्चापि उत्कामेश्वरः गृहीत्वैतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धान् इवासयात्. Hare Krishna.
Giraj Prabhu, are you there? Hare Krishna.
Yes.
9 and 10, Prabhuji.
9 and 10, huh?
Yeah.
Yes. Shrotram chakshusparshanam cha rasanam granam eva cha adhisthaya manaschayam vishayan upasevate utkramantam stitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimodhananu pashyanti jnana chakshushaha.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Who is left? Anybody left? Hare Krishna.
I didn't do Mataji.
Yeah, you can do Prabhuji 11, 12.
Okay. यतन्तो योगिनश्चैनं पश्यन्त्यात्मन्यवस्थितं यतन्तोऽप्यकृतात्मानो नैनं पश्यन्त्यचेतसः यदादित्यगतं तेजो जगद्भाषयतेऽखिलं यच्चन्द्रमसि यच्चाग्नौ तत्तेजो विद्धि मामकम्. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Can I do Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Gam avishyascha bhutani daryamyaham ojasha usnami chash adya sarva samobhuta rasatmakaha aham vaishnava naro bhutva praninam dehamashrita prana samayukta prachanyanyam chaturvidam. Raju, want to do Mataji?
Yeah.
15th one. सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टो मत्ता स्मृतिर्ज्ञानमपोहनं च वेदेषु सर्वैरहमेव वेद्यो वेदान्तकृद्वेदविदेव चाहम्. द्वौ इमां पुरुषौ लोके क्षर एव च क्षार सर्वाणि भूतानि कूटस्थोऽक्षर उच्यते.
Thank you.
Thank you. Uttama purushastvanya paramatmetyudarhita yo lokatrayam avishya bibhartya avyaya ishvaraha yasmaksharamatoham aksharaadapi chottama atosmi loke vede cha pratita purushottama. Giraj Prabhu, you can conclude 1920. Lavanya Mataji, మీరు చేయొచ్చు 1920. Conclude.
यो मामेवमसम्मूढो जानाति पुरुषोत्तमं स सर्वविद् भजन्ति मां सर्वभावेन भारत इति गुह्यतमं शास्त्रम् इदम् उक्तं महानघ एतद् बुद्ध्वा बुद्धिमान् स्यात् कृतकृत्यश्च भारत. ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे पुरुषोत्तो नाम पञ्चदशोऽध्यायः। हरे कृष्ण।
Thank you, Mataji. So we can conclude the call for today.
ఏదైనా పాట పాడండి మాతాజీ.
పాటనా?
Yes, ఒక పాట పాడండి.
అన్నిటికంటే చిన్నది పాడతాను అయితే.
Yes.
సౌరాష్ట్రకం పాడండి.
అది పెద్దది కదా ప్రభుజీ, పాడమంటారా? మీ అందరికి టైం ఉందా? ఓకే ప్రభుజీ.
పాడవాడిన తర్వాత గోవర్ధన ధరం వందే అందరూ ఒక్కొక్కసారి, then we can wrap up.
వ్రజే ప్రసిద్ధం నవనీతచారం గోపాంగనానాం చదుకూలచారం అనేక జన్మార్జిత పాపచారం చారాగ్రగణ్యం పురుషం నమామి శ్రీరాధికాయా హృదయస్య చారం నవాంబుద श्यामलकान्तिचारं पदाश्रितानां च समस्तचारं चाराग्रगण्यं पुरुषं नमामि अकिञ्चनीकृत्य पदाश्रितं य करोति भिक्षुं पथिगेहहीनं केनाप्यहो भीषणचोरयित्रिक् दृष्टश्रुतो वा न जगत्त्रयेऽपि यदीयनामापि हरत्यशेषं गिरिप्रसारान् अपि पापराशीन् आश्चर्यरूपो ननु चोरयित्रिक् दृष्टश्रुतो वा न मया कदापि धनं च मानं च तथेन्द्रियाणि प्राणांश्च भेत्वा मम सर्वमेव केनाप्यपलायसे कुत्र धृतोऽत्यचोरा त्वं भक्तिदाम्नासि मया निरुद्ध छिनत्सि घोरं यमपाशबन्धं भिनत्सि भीमं भवपाशबन्धं छिनत्सि सर्वस्य समस्तबन्धं नैवात्मनो भक्तकृतं तु बन्धं मन्मानसे तामसराशि घोरे कारागृहे दुःखमये निबद्ध लभस्व हे चोरहरे चिराय स्वचौर्यदोषोचितमेव दण्डम् कारागृहे वस सदा हृदये मदीये मद्भक्तिपाश दृढबन्धन निश्चलासन् त्वां कृष्ण हे प्रलयकोटि सतान्तरेऽपि सर्वस्वचोरहृदयान् नहि मोचयामि सर्वस्वचोरहृदयान् नहि मोचयामि. Hare Krishna.
Claps Mataji, claps with professional quality. Thank you so much.
Beautiful గా వాడారు మాతాజీ.
All your
Beautiful
mercy.
Very
డైలీ
good.
ప్రాక్టీస్ అయిపోతుంది, ఏదో ఒక ఫోరం లో పాడుతున్నాను, డైలీ ప్రాక్టీస్ అయిపోతుంది. లార్డ్స్ మర్సీ దట్ హి ఇస్ గివింగ్ మీ a chance.
Krishna's mercy. Actually, you got wonderful voice, Mataji. Krishna's mercy. Very nice tune and touches the heart. Very right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. గోవర్ధన ధరం వందేది నా దగ్గర స్క్రిప్ట్ లేదు ప్రభుజీ, బట్ యూ కెన్ రీడ్ అవుట్ అండ్ వి విల్ ఫాలో.
అందరూ
అందరూ
మనసులో
ఒకేసారి
ఉంది.
చెప్పేయచ్చు, బికాజ్ ఇట్ ఇస్
అందరి మనసులో ఉంది ఆ స్క్రిప్ట్ మాత్రం ఇప్పుడు ఆల్రెడీ 25 days అయింది అదే స్క్రిప్ట్ చదువుతున్నాం.
గోవర్ధనధరం వందే
గోపాలం
గోపరూపిణం
గోకులోత్సవమీశానం
గోవిందం
గోవిందం గోపికా రాయండి మాత్రం మీ 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 ఈ బుక్ లో రాస్తే రాయండి, రాసుకోండి. అప్ టు యు. ఉంది అదే ఒక్కొక్కరు వేయండి, ఒక్కొక్కరు వేయండి.
టైం లేదు ప్రభుజీ, 9:20
ఏ సరిపోదు. చలో
అందరం కలిసి చేసిద్దాం.
ఇంకో 2 సార్లు ఇద్దాం మరి.
గోవర్ధనం ధరం వందే గోపాలం గోపరూపిణం గోకులోత్సవమీశానాం గోవిందం గోపికా ప్రియం గోవర్ధనం వందే గోపాలం గోపరూపిణం గోకులోత్సవమీశానాం గోవిందం గోపికా ప్రియం.
హరే కృష్ణ హరే
కృష్ణ
కృష్ణ
హరే 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 రామ హరే రామ హరే రామ 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 హరే హరే
హరే.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్, థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్.
హరే కృష్ణ గిరిరాజ్ ప్రభుజీ.
మాతాజీ చెప్పండి.
టుమారో రాజు want to do చౌరాస్తికం ప్రభుజీ.
రాజు wants to do చౌరాస్తికం. ఓకే
Definitely, why not?
ఓకే రాజు ప్రభు
లాక్ కియా జాయ్.
రాజు ప్రభు కింగ్ మరి కిరీటం పెట్టుకొని రావాలి.
రాజు ప్రభుజీ will become చౌరాగ్రగణ్యం.
Yes, చౌరాగ్రగణ్యం. చౌరాగ్రగణ్యం విత్ నైస్ టోపీ.
ప్రభుజీ నాకు తెలిసి అంటే సాటర్డే కదా, రేపు ఈవినింగ్ కాల్ లో వాడచ్చు అనుకుంటా ప్రభుజీ.
రేపు ఈవినింగ్ కాల్ ఉంది, మార్నింగ్ భాగవతము. రేపు ఏకాదశి ఇండియాలో. Okay.
He want to do immediately, but 2 days he got a chance to.
I'll learn Prabhuji these 2 days.
చేయండి.
ప్రభుజీ రేపు కాల్ ఉంటుందా ప్రభుజీ?
ఈవినింగ్ సండే ఉండదు. సండే ఏముండదు. రేపు ఉంటది. రేపు ఈవినింగ్ ఇద్దాం. ఏం లేవని పెట్టినా మాత్రం సండే. లెట్ us do. ఇంకా 2 మంది ఇంకెంత మాత్రం బుధవారం వరకే స్టోరీ. ఓకే బుధవారం
పావనేభ్యో వైష్ణవేభ్యో నమో నమః. అనంతకోటి వైష్ణవ వృంద की जय. श्रीला प्रभुपाद बुक रीडिंग की जय. श्रीमद् भगवत गीता की जय. श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. चैतन्य चरितामृत की जय. अनंतकोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. हरे कृष्ण.
మోస్ట్ గ్లోరియస్ అది కూడా చెప్పండి. మోస్ట్ గ్లోరియస్ auspicious month of Purushottam Maas ki jai. Nitya Gaur Hari Premanande. Thank you so much. Happy nice Krishna conscious weekend. Hari Bol.